questions that we've been gathering from folks up front. So hopefully the tower can address those as they're coming in. For wings credit, again, I'll do the same thing that I did last time. Let's just stay on for 60 minutes. And then if you meet that threshold, I'll award the wings credit as soon as I'll try to do it this weekend. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Richard Allabaugh at Airport Operations.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. We certainly appreciate the partnership with the FAA Safety Team on putting this together again. As Gordon had mentioned, this is, if he hasn't mentioned before, this meeting is recorded. So we'll be able to post this later. If there's any concerns or questions, you'll have that available to you, future post here. We have Timothy, Harman, Natalie, Jackson, and Jason from the tower. So they'll go through most of that information here regarding restricted area 6608. Just things from the airport, just to kind of plug some things that are going on, is that we're working right now. The next project that we have coming up is in design is Taxiway Alpha. Taxiway Alpha is just to kind of support the runway rehab that we did on 16 right, 34 left. So we're working in design right now for that. Taxiway Bravo will also be in design for a future project. And one thing continue to plug right now, as it's coming up, is that we're going to work on our master plan. So we've done our 20-year build out of the airport, and it's about, we have pretty much at our limit. So we need to, look at the next years for the airport. So similar to these outlets as well as public meetings, look out for that as we start working through that process, because we want everyone's involvement on how we're going to shape the airport for the next 20 years. Other than that, we just have some punch list stuff to do for 16 right. So you'll see a temporary closure for 16 right, 34 left. We finish that up, and working on some striping for runway 16 left, 34 right. So we'll make sure we put out additional information and look out for the NOTAMs on that information. So without further ado, I'd like to turn my rest of my time over to Timothy Harman and his team as they go to explain restricted area and its impacts on the user. So Tim, take it away.
Hello, everybody. It's our pleasure to be here. And I know Richard did it, but I'd like to introduce everybody that's here with me, supporting me from Manassas Control Tower. I have Natalie Chappelle and Jason Johnson, Mike Hetland, and Jackson Barizio. So they're going to help me through this. We did this about a month ago. Just a little background, I'm the acting ATM here too, by the way, at Manassas. We did this about a month ago, and it was, I believe it went really well. I hope it answered some questions on quite a hot topic especially for the tower. But realize it just doesn't affect Manassas Tower, it affects Dulles and also Potomac Tracon. So it does have a big impact for all of us. One thing I'd like to start out by saying as we talk about our 6608 and the demo areas is this isn't something that's a continuous block of airspace for like a week at a time, even a day at a time. The new letter of agreement between Potomac Tracon and Quantico went into effect the end of December. And since then, there were 3 days, I believe in March, that it went active first. And it was for, I believe, a 4-hour period. And out of that 4-hour period, I think it was active maybe 2.5 hours out of that. And they were done with the training and stopped it. Last week and the week before that, just demo area 1 was NOTAM'd active. And it didn't go active at all those days. They didn't even need it. But I'll get more into the separation of the demo areas 1, 2, and 3 as we go into this briefing. But the important thing to remember, it's not always going to be active. It's going to be in NOTAMs when it is active, and we're also going to put it on the ATIS, which I'll get into more later when it is active. But it's not something we're going to see. It's going to be rather, I use the word infrequent, but it's going to be infrequent. It's not a constant constant run of airspace. So with that being said, we'll jump right into it. So Richard, if you could go to the first slide, and the first slide is pretty basic. It just shows the outlying areas, and I'll get more in depth as we go further in this on the next couple slides. But as you see the outline of our 6608, which in the blue, outlined in the blue there is 6608 Alpha Bravo and Charlie. We'll get into what Manassas Tower and all the other air traffic facilities need when just that's active and how to find out when that's active. And then the big thing that comes into play, and probably the biggest change since this went into effect in December, is demo areas 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, demo area 1 and 3 is to the southwest of our 6608 Alpha Bravo and Charlie. Demo area 2 overlies the boundaries of Alpha Bravo and Charlie. So it sits pretty much right on top of it. So just kind of a brief overlay of the land, which I'm sure you all are probably pretty much familiar with. But we'll go into the next slide and start breaking it down piece by piece on how it affects us. So when our 6608 Alpha Bravo and Charlie, remember that's the blue areas that were around there, they've always been active. It's noted in the sectionals. They're active almost every day for certain periods of the time. I think that the sectional has a huge time slot, maybe I can't even remember offhand, but 14 or 16 hours where it's active. So that's, I don't want to say it's not a big deal for us, but it's not as big of a deal for us. And there has been absolutely no change to this. That's when ground fire and non-aviation activities are taking place in there, and the altitudes can vary from that. But our goal as air traffic controllers is to ensure that non-participating aircraft remain outside the NOTAMed airspace when it is active. As I mentioned before, it is NOTAMed on the VFR sectional. We can take you right up to that boundary. Actually, it's a pilot's responsibility to remain clear because they should know it's there. But if we see someone drifting into there, Potomac Tracon gives a heading that it looks like it's going to take it in and you're on our frequency, our job is to keep you clear of that. You can go right up to the boundary of it, but there is no 3-mile separation with that. So that's the big thing. And there's absolutely no change with that at all. Where the change does come in with the LOA is demo areas 1, 2, and 3. So for that, for any IFR aircraft, we have to provide a 3 nautical mile boundary around that. And I'll show what that looks like on our radar scope in a bit. This was, I'll use the word negotiated between Potomac and Quantico for the new LOA that came out in December. Manassas, and I don't even believe Dulles was involved in those talks. We were notified here at Manassas the beginning of December that the changes are going to be made. The demo areas, of course, have always been there, but the 3-mile boundary restriction is what's new. So any participating aircraft, us or Potomac, will need to keep that aircraft 3 nautical miles from the boundary of demo area 1, 2, or 3, or all of them if they are active at the same time. The second bullet point there really doesn't affect us. It more affects Potomac, but I put it in there because it is in the letter of agreement that an altitude will be assigned 500 feet above the highest altitude of the NOTAMed aviation activity. In the past, when it has been active recently, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, ATC team, but they went to high altitudes, either 15,000 or flight level 200, I believe they went up to. So, I mean, you can go over it if they would keep you 500 feet above what the NOTAMed altitude is. The big thing here, people ask, it was a common question previously, is how do they know when this area is active? It's listed as a DOD NOTAM, and if you do the NOTAM searches under Quantico, November Yankee Golf, it lists when they go active. And like I said, it's been since this went into effect the end of December, it's been a total of 5 days. And out of those 5 days, it was either active 2 hours or 4 hours per the NOTAM. So that's where you're going to want to find it. It's not going to be, if you do a search for Manassas, we're not responsible for putting those NOTAMs in. It's a Department of Defense NOTAM. Or even if you look at Potomac, it's not under there. It's specifically under Quantico. And I'll add this here. we wanted to make sure that we could do it. It will be advertised on our ATIS when we get the call from Potomac Tracon saying that it is active, because Quantico calls Potomac, Potomac will let us know, and we will put something on the ATIS to make you aware that either to look at the Department of Defense NOTAMs or the hours that's active. And the same thing as when we get an inactive call, we'll be sure to take it off the ATIS. So that's one good piece to this puzzle that I'm glad we were able to add. All right, next slide, please. So we talked about IFR aircraft. We definitely have to keep a 3 nautical mile outside of there. How does it affect VFR aircraft? VFR aircraft that are radar identified and being vectored, i.e. a practice approach into Manassas or anywhere really that would come within that. Even though they're VFR, they are radar identified, and air traffic is responsible for keeping them 3 nautical miles from the boundary. On the other hand, SUFRA aircraft and VFR aircraft receiving traffic advisories, whether that be in the pattern, flight following without vectors, we as air traffic controllers can take you right up to the boundary. The 3 nautical miles does not come into play if you're SUFRA or if you're VFR receiving track advisories and not radar identified, of course. So that's I think that's big. The purpose when we all started this. So if can we go to the next slide real quick there, Richard? If you look at this slide, when it's active, Manassas, Richard, if you could point to where Manassas is, and in the restricted area and in our 3 mile boundary is what we see. The dotted line is a 3 nautical mile boundary around our 6608 and the demo areas. So when that demo area is active, and that's where the 3 mile buffer goes into effect for IFR aircraft or anybody that's radar identified VFR, you don't see there's a lot of room there for Manassas to get departures out if we're departing to the south or getting arrivals in. Obviously, we'll get you in. We're not going to close the airport or suspend operations. It's going to take creative work and a lot, and I mean a lot of communication between us and Potomac Tracon. So it may cause someone that's IFR to sit on the ground a couple minutes longer than they have to as we work that out with Potomac, because obviously they have other things going on, and so do we. And so just, I think the biggest thing is patience when it comes to this. And like I said, it will be on the ATIS. So you'll kind of know something's going on, but we gotta, there's no set procedures for departures when we're to the south right now. We gotta obviously call each aircraft individually with Potomac and say, okay, what heading do we need to get them on their way? And we will do that, but like I said, it may take some time to get that coordination processed with Potomac. Also note, if we are landing to the north and we have numerous aircraft in the pattern, FAR pattern, I mean, if the VFR aircraft in the pattern, we don't need to abide by the 3 mile boundary. However, if you're an IFR practice approach, which they may be limited, we're going to play it on a case-by-case basis. There's not a lot of room to extend a boundary, or I'm sorry, a downwind into the boundary. So just want you all to see what we're looking at when in the airspace that we have to work with there. That's the big takeaway from all this. And again, if you do, I'm sure questions are coming up in your mind, and it looks like some people are putting them in the chat. Feel free to put them in the chat. I've heard even from the last one, people have mentioned there's going to be an expansion of our 6608 in the demo areas. I have absolutely not heard anything about that. It's not an expansion area. It's an air traffic rule that we are required to follow now by the letter of agreement. And so that's what it comes down to. They're not looking, it's not a temporary, hey, how is this working? We're going to make that bigger. If there has been no discussions that involve Manassas on that, and I can honestly look you in the eye and say, I don't believe there are any. It's a protection rule, like IFR separation. So with that being said, I think the next slide, Richard, is a spot for us to take a break for questions. Natalie or anybody from the air traffic team, if you can eyeball those and maybe we can go over some questions for them.
So I think one of the questions was answered already. Juan asked what changed that at Quantico that necessitates the buffer. And then thank you for answering, Stephen and Jackson. There was no change. It's always been required. And then Stephen put in that it's in the 71-1065 as well.
Yeah, this wasn't just a new rule that came out of nowhere. Apparently it should have been followed in the past with Potomac and vectors and through research. That's what initiated the new letter of agreement. Anything new? If not, I mean, keep adding questions. There's going to be a spot at the end also where we're going to have a big question.
Yeah, Tim got one if there's going to be a new departure procedure published.
As far as I know, there's not. Like I said, there's no set procedures, and I don't think they'll do it for something that's not active often. Like I said before, it's just going to take a lot of communication between us and Potomac to get aircraft out a certain way when that is active. Jason or anybody from the team, I know it didn't end up going active the past 2 weeks, but that in March when it went active for 3 full days, can you give a little background on how that affected operations in the tower? Anybody that was there that worked it?
Yeah, for the most part, Tim, when we were south, we only had to coordinate one departure that was IFR that turned to the east. They actually turned, they turned to the north, but they made a left turn out from 16 left. And we coordinated a heading within the altitude. Other than that, we were north the other days. And as far as the inbound, I don't think we had any inbounds, but our outbounds just did the standard Hitch 2 and Arsenal 5. There was no Gabby departure, but Hitch 2 Arsenal 5.
Thank you, Jason. Somebody asked in there if asked about if they could get a copy of the LOA. I'll have to check on that. I don't know how that goes, but if you ask for the slides either from Richard or myself or Gordon, I quoted back in slide 1 and slide 2 are direct quotes right out of the letter of agreement. It was copied word for word. So, but I'll look in. I don't know what the policy is for the LOAs, but I certainly will check.
This isn't pertinent to the 3-mile buffer, Tim, but there's a question about just VFR procedures in general, recommended procedures. When departing 3-4, climb to 2300, stay west of the rearback, so 16, climb to, so essentially 2300 outbound and 1800 inbound. Is there recommended procedures? Do you guys care how we get in and out? It's if you go about midway up Jerry Zelk Road at 1246.
I'll let my team address that. They work it every day.
I'll step in, Tim. I don't think that there is a required altitude or a suggested altitude for the VFR aircraft inbound. Keep in mind that when aircraft are departing off of 3-4 and 16, with or without the MOA active, they will be standard is climbing to 2000. So if a lot of aircraft are coming in at 2,300, 2,500, even anything above 2,000, it becomes a potential conflict with a departing aircraft. Oftentimes, if someone's climbing to 2,300 feet when they're westbound, we have conflicts from the inbounds and outbounds. That's why it's very important just to pay attention to the traffic calls and everything the tower is telling you. But for the altitude, I don't think there's any set procedure for the BFR inbounds. Just be vigilant, because there's often a lot of people headed west and a lot of people headed east simultaneously. So there will constantly be conflicts, and that's just something we deal with on a daily basis.
Which I think, Mike, if you want to keep your mic on there, and Richard, if you could go to slide 7, I believe. Mike, I'll let you go right into our next topic. And like I said, keep the questions coming on that. By no means, we just don't want to hold up everything, but you can keep the questions coming on our 6608. But would like to give a little talk on Readback, Hearback, which has been affecting the tower, especially since the weather's been getting nicer. And I'll turn it over to Mike.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. There's just a few issues I want to bring up with the Hearback, Readback, and other important items. I just jotted down a few things, pretty much the same stuff we talked about last time. When you're inbound to the field, pay close attention to the instruction on how you're supposed to enter the delta, or the instructions for entering a pattern. Very important. Everything we're telling you, we're planning 10 steps ahead. So if we're telling you to enter a left downwind midfield, there's a specific reason. If you guys may have maybe not followed the left downwind midfield, then we have to change, the next 5 steps to accommodate the change in the procedure here. Another thing I wanted to bring up is to always pay attention and monitor the frequency. Oftentimes, it appears that pilots will be monitoring when they're expecting a call, when they're expecting a landing clearance. So we may have to reach out 1, 2, 3 times. And we know you're training up there. You guys have got a lot going on and talking, but very important to monitor the frequency, even though you may not be expecting a call to yourself. It's just a safety issue, and helps us out greatly, keep you guys safe, and keep the workflow efficient. Another issue we had is assigned runways. We have 2 parallel runways. So Readback, if we say cleared touch and go 16 left, or cleared to land 16 left, very important that we get the 16 left or right specified. Let's see. There's it's constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing. No one's perfect, so we may think we have a great plan. Something may come up. We may have a fast moving aircraft on final. So even though we have a very specific plan for you and you read it back perfectly, always expect changes. There may be a time where we may ask you to do a 360, a 180, a strange maneuver, an immediate right turn to the south. That's a big thing there. Just expect possible changes. And that also ties in with the monitoring the frequency, even though you may not be expecting a call. Let's see. When you're inbound, if you can, and please check in with the ATIS and the current information. That just, if you don't, that puts us 1 step behind, that we have to verify that you have the information. If you check in with the information, we're 1 step ahead already, and we can keep everything rolling smoothly. Another thing, one of my last things here I wanted to bring up, it's a training facility. There is a lot of aircraft, a lot of instructors. Everybody does a great job, and we love working with you guys. If there is an instructor on the aircraft, and there is a student who may be struggling or having difficulties, for the instructors, please step in and take over for that aircraft. We can't be focused 90% on one aircraft and 10% on everybody else. It just doesn't work well that way. So very important, if the student is struggling, don't tell them, oh no, you should have done A, B, or C, so go ahead and try it again. Just step up, take over for the student, and then explain it thereafter, after you make the correct call or repeat the correct instruction we said. For Hearback, Readback, that's pretty much all I got. I'm sure there's other issues that we could bring up, but those are the big talking points I wanted to bring up, the main issues that we've had recently. For the most part, everybody does a great job. We're just trying to get this information out to you guys to make the airport run more efficiently and safely. That's the most important thing to us, to get you guys back on the ground safe. And if you guys can help us, it'll make our jobs 100% easier, and everybody will be a lot safer. So I appreciate it. That's all I got for the Hearback Readback at the moment, Tim.
All right, thanks, Mike.
You're very welcome.
So before I move on real quick, I wanted Jim McClay, my writing on my computer, I'm sorry, had a question, and he thought, going back to our 6608, and I want to move on to something else real quick, thought the pilots could be violated if going within that 3 nautical mile buffer. Absolutely not. It's air traffic's responsibility to keep you clear of that. So if anybody's going to get violated, we are. So that reference the 3 mile boundary, that's, you're going to be providing, or we're going to give you assistance to stay at least 3 miles from that boundary. So hopefully that would ease some people's concerns for that. One thing I wanted to give real quick, kind of a step, and Gordon gave me the idea for this, and I thought it was good, because we take for granted that we do this day in and day out, and the years add up, and kind of what behind the scenes here in the control tower, what our shifts may look like, our staffing, like that, which I think is an important thing for the public to know. Currently at Manassas, we have 8, we call them CPCs, certified professional controllers. They're checked out through everything. We have 8 fully certified. We're allowed, the FAA allots us 11. So we currently have 3 people that are in training. I'm happy to report we just got them back at the beginning of this month and the end of last month. We brought them in a couple of times. For 13 months, we were under COVID restrictions, where someone from the outside could not come in work-wise. So they were not allowed in the building to train because of due to COVID. Thankfully, they're back and they're training. So we're going to ask for some patience on your end, just like you all are in the process of training pilots also. We're ecstatic to have them back. So we have 8 fully checked out controllers, 3 in training. That's going to bring our number to 11. We have 1 pending retirement at the end of September, which would take us below. And for the record, we've been below. I got here in August, and 1 supervisor transferred, 1 controller transferred. So we've been below that magical number of 11. I can't say enough about the controllers that work here. They're pretty amazing. We had a COVID outbreak in February that left us with 3 controllers, and although we had to reduce our hours during that 14-day span for quarantine, 3 controllers worked 6-day weeks, 10-hour shifts for you all. So they're a pretty amazing team. So we have been understaffed here for some time, and we take one sick leave hit, we have to call in overtime, and our overtime numbers to call in are not great. I don't want to paint a bleak picture, but I just want you to know that that's kind of where our staffing is. And we do 8-hour shifts. Obviously, you know, our hours are 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Happily back. Well, I'll say happily. I don't know if the controllers will say happily back to full normal pre-COVID hours. And we're spread thin. We really are. We have we're allotted 2 supervisors. Right now we have 1. We have another one that's supposed to come on board later in the year. So basically we have 9 people working, covering all the shifts 7 days a week and during our operating hours. So we usually run no more than 2 hours at a time on a shift. The contract states that unless absolutely necessary, not to work more than 2 hours for a well-deserved break. We factor our lunches into that too. So the controllers here are awesome, and I have nothing but good things to say. And I think I know they make me look good. They're all here for the goal of safe moving of traffic, and they do that well. So just a little background on that. I know a question, if it wasn't already asked, people are always asking about tours, if they could come in and visit. As much as we would love to have you in right now, we're still under COVID restrictions from people not employed by the FAA. It's even hard to get a printer repairman or telephone person into the building to fix a equipment outage due to COVID restrictions. So you have my word, as soon as they open the doors and we're allowed and everybody's considered safe, we're going to open it back up for tours again, because we think that's an important part, especially to pilots in training, to the users of the field. I think it helps on both ends. It helps us to have face-to-face contact with you. And I know it would help you to see how our operation and what we see up in the tower. So fingers crossed, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be able to get tours back into the building again. So, but that's all I have, and we'd be more to open it up for any questions still on the demo areas in R6608 or anything else anyone might have. And one thing Gordon brought up about this too, we talked about having something like this twice a year, where we can kind of jump on his bandwagon, and we would love that. I think that's important. Communication obviously is important in our jobs, and I think for the users of the field, it's good for you to see us, to give you the opportunity to ask us questions, and we're all here for you.
Thanks. I just have a question on your operations. When you have a staff, and I know it changes, but do you rotate? Somebody's doing the ground controller, they move up to tower, and they rotate through like that. How does that work?
Yeah, usually, Jason, I'll let you take that over, as you're the one that orchestrates all that.
Hey, Tim. Yeah, sometimes, it depends on the traffic, but, if we're really busy, if it's a really busy Saturday or Sunday, what we try to do is rotate through the position. So if you're coming up to the tower, you'll get on local control. The local control, maybe a slide to ground, since they had already been on position, and then the ground controller will take a break, and then when they come back, they'll come up on local. And we try to do it, like I said, when we're busy. During a regular shift, maybe we not do it so much, but when the workload is a lot, we try to rotate it so one person is not just getting getting killed there on local control. But yeah.
Good info. And I'm happy to give anybody a ride, specifically on a Sunday afternoon. I'll take you out to Culpeper and back, and watch how we have to navigate around Warrenton and Culpeper. So if any of you guys, if I can return the favor up there, I certainly will.
That'd be cool.
And just as Tim was saying about the tower tours, just so you know the logistics behind this, I'm actually sitting outside of the tower right now. They're in the tower, and Richard's over there at the airport manager's office. So we couldn't even get together to do this one because of the.
Okay.
I think one of the questions that I saw in the chat may have been already addressed, but just those that may have attended just came in shortly. How long in advance does that notice come out for that demo area and that restriction?
For the demo areas?
The three nautical mile restriction that you have, how
yeah. And just right. And just so to be clear, there won't be a note saying there's a 3 mile boundary. I'll just say the demo areas 1, 2, or 3 are active during these times. And I don't know if there's anybody from Quantico on here and when they submit those, but I know for sure. I'm sorry.
Steve Roth here from Quantico. I'm also here with another gentleman, Mr. Swagger, is our tower chief. As far as the NOTAMs are concerned, the Air Facility Quantico receives a airspace schedule from the Marine Corps base Quantico, who deals with all the ranges. We get that schedule weekly, and it covers a period of 2 weeks. The NOTAM system only lets us submit NOTAMs 7 days out for this, so we submit those NOTAMs as soon as we get the schedule. So it'd be 7 days in advance. There are times, however, through real-time coordination, that the altitudes may change with that airspace, which is coordinated with the TRACON and ourselves. And those changes would be no TAMs as soon as we get the information that something has changed. Does that answer the question
Awesome.
about the TAM?
Yeah, that's awesome information. I'm glad you're here.
Yep, we appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
One other question that showed up in the chat, I guess it's sent to me directly, but it was, will the 3 nautical mile boundary show up on an airplane's GPS, or do we just need to be aware of it?
I think you just have to be aware of it. I'm not sure if that would show up in the GPS.
Yeah, I can't answer that question from the GPS. I'm not for sure, but again, remember that's going to be air traffic's responsibility to keep you clear of that.
This is Steve Rofsky in Quantico. I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to make sure everybody understands that the 3-mile buffer is purely a separation requirement air traffic control is required to maintain. It's on us to ensure that aircraft maintain that 3-mile separation buffer.
I don't know if there's any other questions in the chat.
What's the second to the last one about their diversion to Stafford under IFR? You know anything about that, Tim? I saw it pop up a little while ago in the chat. A guy was inbound IFR to Manassas and had to divert over to Stafford.
Is this is unrelated to 6608, right? That's just in general.
Yeah, I'm trying to track down the chat in there. It's the fourth one up from the bottom.
And Jason, if you want to jump in, I don't know if I don't have specifics. I don't know if it would have been weather related or.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't aware of anybody that had to divert to Warrenton, so I'm not sure about that.
I think the question said one person indicated they had to divert to Stafford under IFR. Do you know how often this happens?
Anybody?
Well, I think like Jason just said, I wasn't aware, and I know Jason just said he wasn't aware that this happened. So how often it happens, as far as we know, it doesn't. But if it did happen, then I'm not sure how we could look into that further. But I was not aware of it, and I believe Jason said he was not aware of it as well.
Yeah, this is the pilot in question. It was about March 15th, and it was coming in from it was I was on the Tristan 3 arrival, and as I was approaching, approach control notified me that Manassas was not accepting any IFR traffic due to MOA, and what would I like to do? So I elected to land at Stafford, and so on follow up, they said that there was a ceiling issue, that because the ceiling was so low that they weren't accepting any IFR traffic at that time. So that's a little bit of the background on what happened.
That's a tough question for us. I don't know if anybody was here, my team on that ship, but if something happens like that, please feel free to contact the tower. And if anything, you can forward it, ask for the air traffic manager, or if it's after hours, a supervisor or controller in charge, and we'll definitely look into that. If it was March 15th, note also that this was the first time. I don't see why anyone would have had to be diverted. And certainly positive we didn't say that we wouldn't take anybody, but we can certainly look into it and dig into it further. But during that time, that was the first time this all been active for that 3-day period. So we were all we were new to that, but I certainly know no one from my staff would say we weren't taking arrivals, because there's ways to get them in.
I guess a follow-up question that's in the chat on that one is, it says, if demo is active, will the RNAV to 3-4 right approach not be permitted?
team? Is anyone from my team there? I think if you go back to that one slide there, Rich, I think it's number 5.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can.
so if we're north and and there's no way we can, so if we're north, there's no way that the 3-4 right RNAV is going to be active. I mean, we might be able to bring you in on, or Potomac might be able to bring you in on a 1-6 left approach, and we can do some coordination. If we have to stay north, we could do some coordination with Potomac, but if it's active for that 3-mile buffer, 3-4 right RNAV wouldn't be active.
And you can kind of see where our final goes in definitely into that 3-mile buffer.
Well, Jason, I think the question was if the demo area is active, will the RNAV 3-4 right approach not be permitted? Not if the MOA was active, just the demo.
Yeah, so if it's just a demo, then it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think that's
what just to make sure we're on the same page, the demo area is when we need the 3-mile buffer. 6608 Alpha Bravo and Charlie is where we don't have to have it. The demo areas is when the 3-mile bubble goes into effect.
I had a question in the chat that from a slide that I think was in the last deck that was presented as in the last seminar about overflying Warrenton. Are there any, for VFR aircraft inbound and outbound, are there any comments you want to share with regard to overflying Warrenton?
Sure, I'll take that one on. Because that is so complex and it's its own kind of safety meeting in itself. We're putting one of those on the 4th of May at 1900. I was going to say that at the end, but yeah, because of skydiving's picking up, because of the aerobatics are picking up, the Flying Circus is starting their shows here in, I think next month. All of those folks that participated, DC Skydiving, the IAC Chapter 11 and Flying Circus are going to talk about their operations and the best way to keep us all safe there. So we purposely left it out of this one, just to have it in it's a dedicated one to Warrenton in a couple weeks. That should be coming out, and I'll put out another flyer, but that should be coming out through your FAAsafety.gov account within about the next 3 days.
One of the questions that was farther up, just a reminder for everybody, this was we are recording this, and then so there'll be a copy of the slides that we can also send to everybody who attended. I should have a copy of that as well. So we'll post this at a later date, so you have a copy of it if you want to review it again.
I think that's looks like round's complete with the questions. I see people are asking for the phone number from ATC. That's something we never want to get. So no, thanks again, everybody. If you want the slides for this, you can email me. My name's gordon.landale@gmail.com. I'm happy to forward the slides. As Richard just said, this is being recorded, so you can share it to the other folks that weren't able to make it for this afternoon. I reached out to the folks over at Quantico this morning, Steve Roth, and can't thank those guys enough for answering some of the specific questions that we had related to this and what the kind of activity that goes on there as well. So again, the tower wanted to put this out to keep us all informed and all safe, and just can't thank you guys enough for doing what you do up there. Thank you.
Yeah, and from the airport, I know the restrictions that we ran into with COVID, and Tim and your team being able to work to get us back to the hours that we have. We can't thank you enough for keeping our airport towered as best as we can. So continue to partner with you guys, and thanks for putting this together and answering the questions.
It's our pleasure, and I'll say again, we think it's very important. We'd love to be a part of any future meetings like this. It's important to what we do every day. So thanks to my team. Thank you all for being part of this and for the info you gave.
Thanks again, guys. And just a couple before everybody drops off. Again, Gordon, GORDON.Landale, LANDALE warrenton@gmail.com. I'm happy to forward the slides to you. We got the Warrenton webinar coming up on the 4th of May at 1900. And then upcoming this week, this coming Wednesday, John Somiak out of Leesburg is going to talk to us about everything we wanted to know kind of in the northwest corner of the SFRA, centered on Leesburg. So just like we did here for Manassas, he's doing one up there in Leesburg. So please sit in on that. And if you ever have any other questions or any other topics, I'm always pulling my hair out, looking for stuff to have safety and informative webinars for you guys. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, thank you for everybody, what you putting together and meeting, willing to do this again. So thanks.
And Gordon, there was one more question about 3-4 right, if it was the only safe option, and somebody already brought it up, but I just want to highlight it. 1-6 left with the ILS as a localizer, circle the land would definitely still be an option for that.
All right, great. I think my takeaway on this is, I think after the first one, I was looking to see this now bigger airspace, and it's really not. I was flying the day after the first one, and I said, hey, 6608 is active. And I didn't see the NOTAM, and because it was a NOTAM, it's always active, like Tim said. And the times that I have seen the NOTAM come out, it's been 0430 to 0530, and it was only active for 20 minutes inside of that. And I forget the stats, but Tim mentioned like 5 days in the past month. So just keep it in perspective, and it's all work together. So thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Good info.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.